In this brief podcast, what I will take you through is the kinds of things we have covered in our on-campus lecture last week. And this should also help you to think about your assignment 1. So very quickly, some of you may have seen this picture. What I'm showing here is the following. Here's your template for your assignment 1. Now, just to clarify, because some of you asked me these questions, just to clarify, assignment 1 is a proposal for a project that you will be doing for the whole of a semester. It is a proposal. It is not the entire project. So all the assignments in this unit are parts of the same project. First, you create a proposal, and then you go through the research, and then you produce the final piece of work, which is the entire project. Assignment 3, each part of the assignment adds to the other part, so they build on one another. So assignment 3 will be the entire thing. There will not be separate bits and pieces. We need to learn how to produce an entire project on paper. On paper, not online, not in discrete pages in an online website. This has to be on paper. Why? Because nowadays we still produce articles for a journal on paper, and I want you to actually learn to see how all these bits and pieces that you write for me actually look on paper, so that you can actually see the relationships between them. So very quickly, you will have to remember how I said in YouTube podcast I created part 1, that I want you first to start creating a draft and then take the bits from the draft proposal into this template, right? Because you cannot start thinking about your project with a statement of the problem straight away. That would be too hard. You need to do some reading, and then you'll need to learn how to focus your readings in such a way that you can actually answer all other questions. So you should start global and then focus further and further, and then use this draft in order to actually answer these questions. Now you can see the arrow here, the arrow here and the arrow here. The arrow here explains what elements should be included in a rationale, and this arrow here says how you should think in this project about the concept of methods. This is basically your research plan, your research design. First I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this. It would be really nice to actually justify those steps, but these are these 2 points that need to be present in your rationale. I think you have learned by now from Paul Black how to actually create a timeline. I don't know how other people do it, and I don't know how Paul Black does it, but the way I do it, I actually open a Microsoft Word page in what is it, the layout, a portrait or landscape? Landscape, which is really big. Then I create my time frame. This is a time frame. So I have, I have activities, and then I have the year and what I will be doing which month. Here are the activities on the left. Now the cool thing about the way I do it is that typically in formal project proposals like the one for Heap of Money that you will be asking one day, I can't fit the landscape graph or table into this A4 thing. So what I do, I actually take a screenshot of my time frame, and then I produce a picture. This is a picture. I don't know whether you can see it. You see? That's a photo actually. And then I insert it in this A4 format. in a way so that people could actually still read it or be able to read it. Coming back to our lecture, I just try to really do it fast. So what we did, we started with question or an issue that a particular student in our group wanted to actually suggested that she would research. And she said, I'd do the role of leadership in teacher capacity building in my school. Now, I would strongly discourage you from using teacher capacity building in building teacher capacity. Okay, that's much nicer, healthier, happier. So now, some of you who have studied my podcasts will already see that I would have a problem with this because this is only a noun. The role of leadership in building teacher capacity in my school doesn't actually say why you want to do that. You need to say in order to, and now the verb. Improve school performance, improve the quality of teaching and learning in my school, whatever, create wonderful syllabuses or syllabi in my school, respond as a community to new changes required by the Australian curriculum, right? We need to actually embed it in some purpose, otherwise we don't have a focus, right? We could write about the role of leadership in building teacher capacity till the cows come home, right? But we need some sort of embedding so that other people could actually look at it and see whether it actually makes sense. Is that doable, right? So that's why we need that verb. Now, so that's the first thing. It's a kind of the way we think about our project. Second thing is, you probably got that idea from practice and also from reading. Now you can see I drew in class this square and I drew this red line across. So what I mean by that, the leadership in a school context will be actually concerning itself in building teacher capacity because the school itself is not strong without its people being strong. So what I'm saying now is you build your rationale for justifying this specific question that you will investigate in your project, you need to start really global and give us a nice picture of why your research project is important, what makes it relevant, what kinds of pressures it actually that particular context is under, and what kinds of understandings actually impact on the focus of your project. Like, for example, school is a community and it can only be good if the community is healthy, right? So now, how can we make the community healthier in order for everybody to benefit from it? And a literature of this kind, as the student said, comes up with a number of issues that distributed management faces. One of them that the student mentioned was, how can we make a problem that a school is actually facing everyone's problem, right? And now you can see that this kind of issue of how can we make a problem that the principal sees, and maybe some people as well, everyone's problem, is a problem of a distributed management style. Because in a centralized management style, this wouldn't be an issue. So we have a problem. How can we make a particular issue that is relevant to the school everyone's issue, shared by everybody, and how can we use the resources of everybody in order to actually find productive initiatives and move the school forward? The student also found some other problems that distributed management is facing, so it would be nice to mention them, and it's very, very important now, and I don't think that I made enough fuss about it in our on-campus class, but basically the kinds of problems that you actually will identify here, will be the ones that are typical to the distributed management style, right? So for example, the question of workloads, right? Is it typical of a distributed management style, or is it typical of any basically management style? Under any management would teachers have this issue? Probably not so much in a centralized management where actually the leader takes the load, most of the load for ensuring that the organization is functioning well. But in a distributed management style, the issue of workloads is important because it takes time to think out solutions, to do it as a community, right? But what we have decided in class, that now after you have done all of this building up towards problem statement, the student actually, what I thought would be a better idea, is to focus on one, which is the issue of making the school's problem everyone's problem, as the focus of her project. Why? Because I think that it's a focus that actually, if resolved, or if attempted at least to be resolved, and if resolved well, may actually answer some other problems, right? So even though we have here, we can mention here in the rationale a number of problems that a distributed management is facing in a school, it seems to me that when you actually create a statement of a problem, it would be good to justify why did you pick this one. And it's very important to pick one, because if you pick three, you might actually end up with a PhD, and you will not finish it, and then you will fail, and you will look bad, and I will look bad. So we just don't want that. So, and this actually also, what I'm saying to you, teaches you to focus your problem, right? So I'm not writing about all the leadership in every school on every issue in order to achieve everything. I'm just gonna look at this particular aspect, which is how can we actually, what can we do in school in order to enable teachers to see the school problem or the school's problem as their own problem. That's what I will be doing. And I will be doing this, you justify it, because it appears from the literature or from your own logic and experience. It would be better that it actually appears from the literature, obviously, that sometimes solving one problem actually enables people to actually solve more than one problem. Right. So now we have finished the rationale, and now we are into statement of a problem. I will be doing this because looking at this problem may actually resolve some other problems. And the specific problem that I will be looking at, that I want to make everyone's problem, is how we can get together, or how can we work as a community in order to actually improve schools' performance or school performance, right? So we need to have this in order to. So I will be doing this because this may solve more than one problem, and I will be doing this with the focus on improving school performance. So now we have this problem statement. As you can see, we had these three ingredients, 1, 2, 3, and I suggest to focus on teaching and learning, the quality of teaching and learning. Well, at least in class I suggested it. You can pick any type of any element of school performance. So now when we write statement of the problem, we say with this objective in mind, which is all this stuff you have actually written some short text about. With these objectives, or with these, pardon me, objectives in mind, this project seeks to identify leadership strategies which promote building teacher capacity, right? Leadership strategies which promote building teacher capacity as a means of sharing a responsibility in matters relating to school performance, which is what came from literature. Specifically, the aim is to explore how this distributed management style, right? Now we know it's a distributed management style, can help my school to approach the issue of quality teaching and learning as a community. And that's a problem statement, right? So this is the thing that the assignment wants right here. But you could see we didn't actually start with it. We had to produce a bit of a statement of the context, the things we wanted to do. Then we had to unravel all of that, what these leadership strategies might be, what this building of teacher capacity might mean in relation to leadership, and then all of this needs to be focused on improving school performance. So we got this statement, then you can say here, this is in the template itself of your assignment. Once you actually unravel these points of focus, so these are the summaries now, right? So you, in the rationale here, you will give more attention to those aspects, this relationship between this and that, and how it relates to this. You'll give more attention as described above by me. And I'm just giving you generic help. You might do it differently or following my advice, up to you. But this is what I will be looking for now. When I look at the template, I will be looking now for this statement, then justification. So basically, why did you focus on understanding the relationship between leadership strategies and building teacher capacity as sharing of responsibility? You will need to justify it, and I have actually given you ways when I was talking about it in here. And then you will say to us why you focus school performance on the issue of quality of teaching and learning. Now the aims, I'll just come to the aims. I have not actually explained it as yet. The rationale will be everything we have done so far, talking about the bigger context and then narrowing it down, and the design will be all the things I said before, which is first we do literature review on this and on that, and I'll just explain it a little bit further now. But design is basically your project plan, how you will go about completing this whole assignment, which consists of a number of parts, and this assignment 1 is just part of the whole thing. Alright, so let us now look at the aims and also at the plan. Well, there is no award for no prizes for guessing, but now actually as part of your research design, you will actually have to do a pretty detailed review of the literature on the issue of just how schools actually, what strategies, what type of initiatives, what types of strategies do schools use in order to actually share responsibility in matters relating to school performance, right? So you need to do a thorough literature review, and when you present your findings in this area, what you will need to do is actually, that's not for assignment 1, this is what you describe how do the literature review in order to actually identify principles for sharing responsibility in matters relating to school performance, right? So this is what you write in your assignment 1, but really what you will be doing now here later on as you are doing your assignment 2 and 3, in that literature review, when you actually start talking about this literature review, I want you to actually identify what I call the general thrust of these principles, right? So that the reader doesn't read them as a chaotic list, but there must be something that brings them together. So that will be your first literature review. And here are your principles. Now, I created this table here to show you that when you actually make recommendations, or when you actually say how to do it in your school, you don't just simply say, well, I'll take these principles I found in a book or 3 books and I'll just apply them. Well, you can't do that, because you also need to consider you need to consider your school context. So in your literature review, you will identify all these principles, and then the aim of your little research project would be to actually create a framework for engaging these strategies, all these ideas, these principles in your school context. And the framework means nothing else but relating principles. So I suggest here we have those principles. Here we have different criteria that your school already has identified as criteria for enhancing, criteria that actually specify what quality of teaching and learning actually means. And now what I want you to do is to fill those blank tables or sections and actually specify your idea. I want you to specify also to basically explain it, maybe also exemplify it, how other people do it. And so each of those little sections has to be a detailed whole so that people can actually make sense out of it. So have this principle which you have identified, explained and exemplified here, right? So it cannot be just a bullet point. It is important that your project is as detailed as possible, but detailed with relevant things. So this principle in a table that you create might be just simply a bullet point, but in your literature review it has to be evidenced, it has to be explained, and it has to be exemplified. So in your literature review is one thing, but now when you actually do what the whole research project is about, which is to create a framework for relating these principles to your school, also in here you have to do it in such a way. So when you actually in here you should do it in a way that people can read this table easily and actually comprehend it, but you will still need a separate section in your research that actually explains it in a greater detail. But just to summarize, for the sake of assignment 1, what I'm asking you to do is to answer these questions. In the rationale, have all of these things answered. Your methods are, for example, explained here. And now the aim of your project. So the aim of the project, let me continue, will not be just to do a review of how sharing of what do we word it as? Sharing of responsibility in matters relating to school performance actually is done. It is not only about the literature review, how other people do it, but it's actually about relating it to the context of your school. So this is the aim. And as you know from the other PowerPoint, I will ask you to actually evaluate. Well, I don't know, you don't have to do it, you can do it something else, but I would think it'd be a very worthwhile exercise to engage your class peers and your networks in actually helping you to evaluate that framework of how what they actually think about it, and as a result you'll get a better picture of what you of the value of what you actually have done, right? So in essence, we started with this. Then we did the literature review on leadership, on the relationship between leadership strategies and building teacher capacity. We decided that in modern life, these two translate into distributed management style, and we have focused on the aspect of how schools actually make its problems shared problems, right? Because it was one of the issues that the literature showed. So subsequently we got to the problem statement, which is, with this objective in mind, we want to do all of that. We need to do a justification in our assignment 1, where you justify how you actually got to this point. This one here, I'll just make it a different color so that we are clear that I'm talking about this. And you say, because of this and that. The aim, now we're very clear, it is to develop a framework and evaluate it. Well, that makes it really nice, right? Evaluate it in collaboration with my colleagues, with my peers, people who actually can provide you with an expert assessment. Now the rationale, so this is now the how you go about in your writing. So the rationale will be everything that led you to the point that you were able to actually produce all of that. So the rationale is everything I specified and outlined here. The design is what I said here. Now I do realize that it is not easy for me to actually talk about project design in generic ways, but I hope that I have offered here in this video podcast enough help for you to make sense out of assignment 1, to actually move on with it in a more informed way, or in a more supported way at least. Okay, thank you very much.